"Please, don't make me walk through that gate alone," whispered Lyra, her voice trembling like the lantern light flickering above her. "You must, princess," replied Sir Rowan gently. "The envoy from Earth is already waiting." Lyra, a sheltered Star Kingdom princess, gifted with empathic senses. A human groom chosen for a political bond, quiet yet unreadable. Sir Rowan, Lyra's loyal guardian, torn between duty and compassion. Queen, Lyra's mother, determined to secure peace at any cost. The palace sky bridges thrummed with distant engines, a low metallic hum that vibrated through Lyra's bones. Her silver gown caught the blue glow of the docking bay, shimmering like trapped starlight. Every instinct screamed to flee, to hide, to vanish into the maze of crystal corridors behind her. But the countdown was already in motion. An alliance demanded at sunrise, a marriage sealed before nightfall, a fragile peace dangling by minutes. A forced union, but the princess wasn't afraid of marriage. She was afraid of the unknown creature waiting for her. Humans, her tutors had whispered, were unpredictable, too determined, too emotional, too willing to throw themselves into danger with no thought for their own survival. They were the only ones bold or foolish enough to confront empires far stronger than their own. Her people called them unrefined. Others called them unstoppable. Lyra only knew one thing. No one had ever told her what a human bridegroom looked like up close. A cold gust swept through the corridor as the hangar doors parted. She stepped forward, the sound of her footsteps echoing like distant chimes. The scent of metal and ozone filled the air. She could feel eyes on her, dozens of them, but one gaze pressed harder than the rest, steady, calm, unblinking. Her heart pounded. There he stood. Tall, still, a silhouette carved against the docking lights, a human man, her groom. His posture suggested discipline, but his expression, she couldn't read it. She tried, stretching her empathic senses toward him, reaching for the emotional pattern she could always feel in others. Nothing. He was like polished stone, quiet on the surface, hiding something vast beneath. The absence of emotion startled her so violently she inhaled sharply, a tiny sound that echoed in the chamber. She clutched her gown with shaking fingers. Why couldn't she sense him? Why was he a void? Sir Rowan leaned closer. "Princess, are you well?" No, something was wrong. Something was very wrong. But she couldn't falter. Not now, not under the watchful eyes of both worlds. The alliance clock ticked loudly behind her mind, each second a reminder. If this ceremony failed, the Star Kingdom's borders would fall. She alone stood between her people and the quiet, crushing end of their sovereignty. She lifted her chin, stepped forward. His footsteps were soft but heavy, like the slow heartbeat of a giant. The soft vibration traveled up the polished floor to her feet. His shadow stretched across the glass tiles, meeting her own. He stopped only an arm's length away. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice deep but unexpectedly gentle, "I don't wish for you to fear me." Fear? The moment she saw his eyes, dark, calm, quietly burning, her breath caught in her throat. Not fear. Something sharper. Something she didn't have a name for yet. The hum of the engines dimmed. The lights above flickered, then steadied. A distant alarm pulsed once, an unnoticed warning buried beneath ceremony. Lyra swallowed hard. She could sense a storm behind his composed exterior, something wild and human and powerful waiting just beyond reach. And though she didn't understand it, the mystery pulled at her like gravity. The gate behind them hissed shut. There was no turning back. The chamber doors slid open with a soft sigh, releasing a wave of warm, amber light that washed over Lyra, and servants bowed as they passed, but Lyra barely noticed them, her thoughts tangled with the thunder of her own heartbeat. Something about the human groom unsettled her in ways she couldn't place. Not danger, not comfort, something in between, as if she were standing at the edge of a cliff, waiting for wind or wings. Followed a step behind her, his presence a quiet weight that seemed to shape the space around them. He didn't speak, didn't probe, didn't attempt to reassure her again. Yet Lyra found herself of him, as though the air vibrated differently where he walked. Finally, she turned slightly. "You walk so silently for someone as tall as you," she murmured. "Habit," he replied, voice steady. Humans survive better when we learn to move quietly. Lyra blinked. Survive, you mean on your world? He nodded once, and off it. A small, cold ripple ran along her spine. She wanted to ask more, but Rowan gestured for her to quicken her pace. The ceremonial hall was close, and time was not their friend. The palace walls brightened as they approached, thin rivers of luminescent crystal running through the marble like living veins. Lyra lifted a hand to steady herself. Her empathic senses were flooding with pressure. Not from this time, from something else. The hall was too quiet. The diplomats from Earth should have been murmuring. Her own council members should have been discussing protocol. Instead, silence. Deep, ringing, unnatural. Rowan noticed her pause. Princess. There's something wrong, she whispered. But before she could explain, the doors parted, revealing the vast ceremonial chamber. Golden banners hung from towering arches. Lanterns floated like slow-moving stars. Rows of dignitaries lined the sides, yet not a single one made a sound. All eyes were locked on. A shiver brushed her skin. It wasn't fear she sensed from the crowd, it was awe. No, not quite. Something closer to wary respect the kind predators gave one another in the dark. Stepped forward calmly. An elder counselor leaned toward the queen. Majesty, his presence is much stronger than expected. Looked at them, expression unreadable. We did warn you that humans adapt. Lyra's mother offered a strained smile. We expected adaptation, not, she faltered, not intensity. Bowed his head politely. Intensity is merely resolve, your majesty. Resolve, the word felt heavy. As Lyra walked beside him toward the ceremonial platform, she noticed something she hadn't earlier. The faint scars along his knuckles, thin but deep, as though earned in battles that left no room for hesitation. Yet his hands were still, almost gentle, as they folded behind his back. You don't have to be afraid of them, said quietly, as if reading her tightening breath. I'm not afraid of them, she answered before she could stop herself. He turned his head slightly toward her. His gaze met hers for only a second, but the intensity there made her inhale sharply. Good, he murmured. The ceremony attendant stepped forward. Please join hands. Lyra's pulse spiked. Touching anyone opened their emotions to her, flooded her senses with their colors, shapes, and storms, but was unreadable, a void. What would happen when she touched a void? Still, she lifted her hand. Reached out. Their palms met. The room vanished. A burst of sensation struck her. Not emotion, not thoughts, but something far older, like the roar of a distant sea echoing across centuries. A warmth burned through her palm, racing up her arm, an ancient strength that made her gasp. She staggered, nearly collapsing, but steadied her instantly. His grip was firm, steady, almost anchoring. Their eyes locked. His carefully guarded expression cracked for the first time, surprise flashing across his face. You felt that too, he whispered. She couldn't speak, because the warmth inside her wasn't fading. It was growing, and somewhere deep within it, a single terrifying realization took shape. He wasn't a void at all. He was something far more powerful, and her touch had just awakened it. The warmth spreading through Lyra's hand pulsed like a second heartbeat, his heartbeat. Or was it hers? For a moment she couldn't tell where she ended and began. The hall around them blurred in soft gold, lanterns smearing into trails of light as though time itself hesitated. Rowan stepped forward sharply. Princess. But Lyra lifted a trembling hand. I'm all right. Except she was. Something inside her had shifted, like a door she didn't know existed had opened, letting in a wind she wasn't prepared for. Still held her hand, but his grip was no longer merely steady. It was cautious, almost protective, as if he feared she might vanish if he let go. What did you feel? She whispered. His voice was low. A call. A call. He nodded, eyes narrowing in thought. Like something ancient recognized you, or recognized us together. Her breath caught. That cannot be. Our peoples have no shared. A sharp crack split the silence. The floating lanterns trembled. The banners rippled as though swept by a sudden wind none of them could feel. Murmurs rose from the gathered counselors, their nervous whispers fluttering through the hall like frightened birds. Queen stepped forward. "We will pause the ceremony." "No," said immediately, and the firmness in his tone made even the queen still. "Stopping now would only worsen whatever this is. Let her breathe, let her stand, but do not break the bond mid-formation." "Bond?" Lyra asked faintly. "This is only a diplomatic." "Not anymore." His eyes locked on hers with a certainty that made the space between them hum. "Whatever touched us through that contact wasn't political." Lyra swallowed hard. Her empathic senses were swirling wildly, struggling to organize themselves. The warmth in her arms settled into her chest, steady, rhythmic, like a tether to something she couldn't fully sense. Rowan approached, speaking low. "Princess, step back if you feel threatened." "Threatened?" The word startled her. She didn't feel threatened. She felt connected. And that was far more terrifying. Before she could respond, the ground vibrated beneath them, just once, a subtle tremor that only she and seemed to register. Their eyes met at the same instant. "You felt it too," she breathed. "Yes." The attendants and guards looked around, confused, unaware of the brief shift. But another tremor followed, soft, nearly soundless, like a monster breathing beneath stone floors. A time-sensitive threat. Whatever it wasn't waiting. Stepped slightly in front of Lyra, barely perceptible but unmistakably instinctive. Her eyes widened. He didn't know her abilities, yet he moved with the reflex of someone who protected first and questioned later. "Why would you shield me?" she whispered. He didn't look back at her. "Because I understood the moment I saw you, you are the reason your kingdom stands. If you fall, everything falls." Her heart jolted. No one had ever spoken of her role so plainly, not even her mother. Another tremor, stronger. Lyra gasped softly. "It's moving." "What is?" asked. "I don't know. I've never felt a presence like this. It's not emotional, it's structural, as though the energy beneath the palace is shifting." His jaw tightened. "Then someone is forcing it." The queen's voice rang out, unaware of the danger building under their feet. "Resume positions. The bond ritual must continue." A loud, metallic groan echoed through the chamber. The floor lights flickered. The crystal veins along the walls dimmed. Every lantern dropped an inch, as though pulled by invisible gravity. Gasps spread through the crowd. Rowan shouted, "Protect the princess," but was already gripping her hand again. The instant their palms touched, the warmth surged, stronger, clearer, no longer wild but guiding, focusing itself toward the source of the disturbance. Lyra's breath caught. "It's showing me something." "Showing us," corrected. And suddenly she knew. Whatever ancient force had awakened between them had not been an accident. It had been waiting. For both of them. Together. The warmth that had surged through their joined hands sharpened into a thin, brilliant thread, an invisible line guiding Lyra's senses downward, beneath the marble floor, deeper than any chamber or structural foundation. She stumbled as the vision tugged at her mind, but steadied her again, bracing her with a strength that felt immovable. "What do you see?" he asked softly. Lyra closed her eyes. The world fell away. She saw darkness. Then movement, slow, heavy, deliberate. Like something ancient waking from a forced slumber. "It's not a creature," she whispered, breath trembling. "It's an anchor." "A what?" "An energy root beneath the palace. It stabilizes our floating capital. It's supposed to be dormant, untouched," she swallowed, "but something is stirring it." His expression darkened, manipulated. She nodded, "Yes." A sudden jolt struck the floor, stronger than before, sending a ripple of unsteady light across the chamber. Gasps erupted. Several dignitaries clutched their seats. Rowan barked orders to secure the exits, but the air itself felt unstable, warping with faint distortions like heat over desert sand. Queen stepped forward, her voice tight. "Lyra, what is happening?" Before Lyra could answer, the warmth between her and pulsed again, once like a heartbeat, then twice stronger, as if insisting they move. "We have to go," said under his breath. Now. Go where? Rowan demanded. Down, Lyra whispered, her voice far too calm for what she felt. To the anchors. That level is sealed, the Queen protested. Only engineers and... A sharp crack snapped through the hall. One of the crystal lanterns shattered, sending shards floating weightlessly in slow spirals before dropping like falling stars. The hall shook again, and Lyra felt a surge of panic, not her own, but from the hundreds of people watching, realizing too late that something was terribly, unnervingly wrong. Mother, Lyra said urgently, we don't have time. If the anchor fractures, the capital will lose altitude. We'll be falling before anyone can evacuate. A frightened murmur spread like lightning. Rowan moved instantly. Princess, I'm escorting you to the lower lifts. Tightened his grip on her hand. I'm coming. Rowan bristled. This is a matter of our kingdom. This is a matter of survival, cut in, tone sharp but controlled. And whatever's reacting to her touch is reacting to mine too. She saw it, I felt it. You need me with her. Lyra's breath hitched. He's right. The Queen hesitated, eyes flicking between them, between the tremors, the frightened council, and the bond forming between her daughter and the human she barely knew. Finally, she nodded. Go, she commanded, but take the side corridors. The main lift is too exposed. Rowan led them swiftly through a narrow passage behind the ceremonial dais. The walls hummed with tension, faint vibrations running along the crystal seams. The deeper they moved, the colder the air became, the lights dimming to a dull, anxious blue. Lyra's steps echoed sharply, walked beside her, posture alert, eyes scanning every corner. You don't seem surprised by any of this, she said quietly. Humans prepare for worst-case scenarios, he replied. Survival is in our bones. You say that as if expecting disaster. Not expecting, he corrected, understanding it. A soft tremor shook dust from the ceiling. Lyra reached for the wall to stabilize herself, but caught her arm before she slipped. Easy, he murmured. Their eyes met again. And there, that warmth surged a third time, not painful but powerful, like two currents aligning. What does it want from us? She whispered. I don't know, he said, voice low. But whatever it is, it doesn't want us apart. Rowan gestured ahead. The lower access hatches here. The corridor ended at a reinforced gate. Lights flickered around its frame, warning of unstable energy deeper below. Lyra exhaled. Once we open this, there's no turning back. Stepped forward, placing his hand beside hers on the control panel. Then we go together, he said. And as the gate began to open, a deep, resonant rumble rose from below, as though something ancient recognized their arrival. The gate shuddered upward with a grinding groan, releasing a cold draft from the depths below. The air that emerged felt older than the palace itself, thick, metallic, and humming with hidden force. Lyra flinched as the warmth between her and sharpened, as if urging her downward, pushing her toward the unknown. Rowan stepped to the threshold first, blade drawn. Stay close. We descend 3 levels to reach the anchor chamber. 3 levels, murmured. Your kingdom keeps its most critical structure that deep. It was never meant to be reached easily, Lyra said softly. They descended the narrow stairwell. The lights overhead flickered in anxious rhythm, each step echoing like distant thunder. Lyra's senses buzzed. Her empathic abilities usually brought her clarity, but here they tangled into static, overwhelmed by a presence she couldn't define. Cold pressed against her skin. Not danger, not malice, but expectation. Walked at her side, posture protective yet composed. His hand brushed hers once. The warmth flared instantly, almost startling them both. You felt that too, he whispered. Yes, she breathed, but it grows stronger the deeper we go. Rowan glanced back. You too react as if something is calling you. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. It is. The stairwell ended abruptly, opening into a cavernous chamber lit by pale blue veins of energy running through the walls. The anchor, an enormous crystal column, rose from the center like a frozen waterfall, humming with power. It pulsed slowly, each beat sending soft tremors through the floor. But something was wrong. The pulse was uneven, faltering. His eyes narrowed. Something has disrupted the harmony. Lyra stepped closer, drawn by an unseen pull. As she reached the base of the anchor, her breath hitched. Faint fractures lined the crystal, thin, jagged cracks that shouldn't exist. Her fingertips hovered over one. "They're spreading," she whispered. Rowan cursed under his breath. "If those fractures reach the core." "We fall," Lyra finished, her voice barely a whisper. Approached the anchor, his expression darkening. "This was no accident. The damage is deliberate." She looked at him sharply. "How can you tell?" He touched one of the cracks gently, tracing its edge with careful precision. "The fracture lines are uneven, shaped by external pressure, not internal collapse. Someone forced this. But who would dare sabotage the kingdom's foundation?" Before she could speak, the warmth between their palms surged again, though they weren't touching. The force felt insistent, rising, as if something waited for them inside the anchor's core. Lyra staggered, gripping his arm as a sudden vision crashed into her mind. Dark corridors, shadows moving with purpose, hands pressing against the anchor's lower seams. A figure cloaked in shimmering gray. Then gone. She gasped, knees buckling, caught her instantly, pulling her upright with firm hands. "Lyra, what did you see?" She steadied herself, breath trembling. "A saboteur, someone cloaked. I couldn't see a face, but they were here, recently." Rowan's grip tightened on his weapon. They could still be in the lower tunnels. Shifted, scanning the chamber. His eyes narrowed toward a far wall, where a faint, irregular glimmer flickered. "That panel," he murmured, "it's been moved." Rowan moved toward it but raised a hand. "Wait." The warmth between Lyra and twisted suddenly, warning, sharp, almost commanding. Then a soft click echoed from behind the panel. Lyra's eyes widened. Something's there. The wall burst open. A shadowed figure lunged out, sprinting across the chamber with startling speed. Rowan gave chase instantly, but the intruder vaulted over a railing and disappeared into a lower tunnel. Started after them, but stopped when Lyra grabbed his sleeve. "Don't," she whispered. "That's not where we're meant to go." His breath steadied. "Then where?" She turned toward the anchor. The warmth grew, pulling her forward. "The anchor wants us," she said. "It's calling us to its core." Stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Then we go to the core," he said quietly, "together." The anchor chamber dimmed as Lyra and stepped closer to the crystalline column. Its surface shimmered faintly, as though recognizing them. The low hum vibrating through the floor deepened into a slow, pulsing rhythm, steady, powerful, patient. It felt alive. Rowan sprinted back from the lower tunnel, breath sharp. The saboteur escaped into the ventilation shafts. I couldn't catch them. "It doesn't matter now," Lyra whispered, eyes fixed on the anchor. "The real damage is here, and it's reacting to us." His gaze stayed locked on the fractures spiderwebbing through the crystal. "How do we reach the core?" Lyra placed her palm against the surface. A soft glow blossomed beneath her touch, spreading like ripples across a pond. The warmth inside her chest responded instantly, building, intensifying, as if her very heartbeat resonated with the anchor's pulse. "It's opening," she said. Slowly, impossibly, a seam appeared down the center of the anchor. Not a crack, but a deliberate parting, an entrance that had never been recorded, never spoken of in the kingdom's histories. Crystal petals unfolded like a blooming flower, revealing a narrow passage descending into radiant, swirling light. Rowan stared in shock. "Princess, no one has ever entered the anchor. Not even the engineers knew it had a core chamber." Lyra stepped forward, though her legs trembled. "That's because it wasn't meant for them." Moved beside her, unwavering. "It's meant for whoever awakened it." Their eyes met. The warmth surged again, never painful, always steady, like something ancient urging them onward. Rowan grabbed his arm. "If anything happens to her." Didn't flinch. "I won't let her fall." Lyra touched Rowan's hand gently. "I need you here. The saboteur won't give up. Protect the chamber, protect Mother, we'll return." Rowan swallowed hard but nodded. "May the stars guide you both." placed his hand beside Lyra's on the glowing entrance. Instantly, the light flared around them, drawing them inside with a suction that felt both frightening and strangely protective. The world dissolved. A rush of air, a shift in gravity, a soft pulsing glow. Then silence. Lyra opened her eyes. They stood inside the anchor's heart. The space was vast, far larger than the structure should have allowed. Walls of crystalline light rose infinitely upward, shimmering with colors she had no names for. It felt like being inside a living star, warm, ancient, watching. Stepped forward slowly. This place, it's conscious. Lyra nodded. It feels like it's listening. As they moved deeper, the warmth that had linked them since the ceremony grew brighter, forming faint golden threads swirling around their hands and drifting upward like fireflies. Lifted one gently. This energy, it's responding to both of us, not just you. She felt it too. The bond was no longer just warmth, it was resonance. Their breaths synced, their footsteps matched, their senses sharpened together. She whispered, "I think we're supposed to fix the fractures." He looked at her, brows knitting. "How?" Before she could answer, a deep vibration rolled through the core chamber. The walls pulsed violently, throwing streaks of red light through the blue glow. Lyra gasped, clutching her chest as multiple visions slammed into her mind. Cracks spreading. The city trembling high above. The saboteur placing a device at the anchor's base. A countdown. She staggered. Caught her instantly. Lyra. Her voice quivered. They planted it's eating into the crystal like acid. The anchor is collapsing faster than we thought. We have to stabilize it from here, said. What do we do? She lifted her trembling hands toward the walls. We give it balance. It's reaching for us, so we reach back. Moved beside her, placing his hand beside hers without hesitation. Light exploded around them. A wind roared through the chamber, swirling with gold and white. The anchor's pulse synced with their hearts, beating in unison. Energy surged through their bodies, filling them with strength and clarity that felt impossibly ancient. Lyra gasped as the fractures above began to glow, slowly, painfully, mending themselves like healing bones. But the vision returned. The countdown. The saboteur's device. 30 seconds left. She whispered, voice cracking. We can stabilize the anchor, but the device will still detonate. His jaw tightened. Then I'll stop the device. You can't, her voice trembled. It's too far below, you won't make it back in time. He met her eyes. And for the first time, she saw the full force of his resolve. I don't need to make it back. Her breath froze. No, she whispered, no. But he stepped away from the glowing wall. And the light around them trembled. Don't you dare move. Lyra's voice cracked through the vibrating chamber, desperate, sharp with fear she could no longer contain. He paused only for a moment, his silhouette outlined by the swirling gold and blue light. Lyra, he said softly, your kingdom needs you. The anchor needs you. But the device, it needs someone who can move fast and think under pressure. You'll be crushed between energy currents, she whispered, stepping toward him. You'll never outrun the blast. He shook his head. Humans don't survive by running. We survive by finishing what needs to be done. The chamber trembled violently again, sending fractures of red lightning across the crystal surfaces. The golden threads that had been swirling around the two of them flickered in protest, as if refusing to let him go. Lyra seized his hand, holding it with all the strength in her trembling fingers. You can't leave, not like this, not after everything, not after the bond awakened. For the first time, his calm expression wavered. He lifted his free hand and brushed a tear from her cheek, his touch warm despite the frigid air. I wasn't expecting this either, he murmured. Not a bond, not you, not, he exhaled softly, not a reason to hesitate. Then hesitate, she pleaded, just this once. He smiled faintly, an expression small yet impossibly human, filled with quiet grief and fierce resolve. If I stay, you fall, all of you. I can't let that happen. The device's countdown pulsed in Lyra's mind, faint, rhythmic, merciless. 20 seconds. The anchor heartbeat stuttered. A crack snaked upward. Lyra felt her breath falter. The chamber around them began pulling energy inward like an inhale it couldn't finish. Everything depended on the anchor stabilizing and on the device being destroyed. But destroying it meant one path, one sacrifice. "No," she whispered again, her voice trembling so fiercely she could barely speak. "You're not giving your life for mine." "I'm giving it for your people," said gently. "For the pact we were supposed to form, for the future they hoped we'd build." He squeezed her hand one last time. "But I am also doing it for you." Her breath broke. The warmth that had connected them pulsed wildly, flaring like a frightened star. Lyra felt it tugging, pulling, begging him not to leave. Instinctively, she reached deeper, past the warmth, past the resonance, past the ancient call binding them. And something answered. A surge of light burst through her chest, racing through their linked hands, staggered, eyes widening. "Lyra, what are you?" She didn't know. She only knew the anchor was channeling through her, through both of them, binding them in ways older than any alliance. "I won't let you face that alone," she whispered, voice steadying. "If this bond awakened for a reason, then it awakened for both of us." The chamber roared, reacting to her words. Golden lights swirled violently, twisting around their arms like living flame. The anchor pulse synchronized with their breathing again. One beat, two beat, steady, unified. Stared at her, torn between awe and frustration. "Lyra, you'll die." "No," she said, "we'll survive together." And then she felt it. Not just warmth, not just resonance, but a deeper power, lighting inside her veins like a second soul awakening. The bond wasn't asking for a sacrifice. It was offering a fusion. Lyra grabbed his other hand, pulling him toward the core's point. "Trust me." He hesitated, only a heartbeat. Then he nodded, "Always." They stepped into the beam of spiraling light, letting it swallow them. The chamber vibrated violently as the bond surged into its final form, golden threads weaving around them, through them, binding them with unstoppable force. The countdown hit 5 seconds. 4, 3. The bond expanded. 2. The anchor ignited in radiant white. 1. A shockwave burst from the core, silent, absolute, brilliant. The device's pulse vanished. The fractures froze, and the entire city steadied above them as the anchor settled into a perfect, restored heartbeat. When the light finally dimmed, Lyra opened her eyes slowly. She was kneeling on the crystal floor, the chamber calm, glowing with soft blue. Knelt beside her, breathing, alive, his hands still tightly intertwined with hers. He let out a long, trembling breath. "We made it." Lyra leaned against him, tears slipping down her cheeks, but this time from relief. "The bond saved us." "No," he whispered, resting his forehead against hers. "You saved us." The anchor pulsed gently around them, its glow warm and welcoming, as though recognizing its chosen pair. Lyra closed her eyes. For the first time, she didn't tremble in fear. She trembled in hope.